This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, so I think I've met Marie Cloud and Cynthia. I don't know if you've been on one of these yet, but I'm Brett Tomes, and I'm director of the SPIN group, this Scleroderma Patient Centered Intervention Network. So as I think some of you know, that we ran the SPIN chat program last spring, and it was really enjoyed by people in it. And so we thought we'd provide some of the modules and some of the information to it. So Delaney, it's great to see Delaney again. Delaney is a kinesiotherapist, an exercise specialist. She completed her Bachelor of Arts in Kinesiology and Psychology from the University of Lethbridge in Alberta, Canada, so out west. And she's currently a second-year master's student in Health and Wellness Lab at the University of Calgary, where she does studies exercise in cancer survivors. And she works in a really great group out there. And she and her colleagues did all the exercise and physical activity with our teams, and we keep working with them because they're so good to work with. So she designed the programs for exercise at home, and I hope you'll enjoy. I'm gonna get off, but I hope you'll all enjoy your session with Delaney, and have a wonderful evening. Thanks, Delaney, for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, Brett, for the introduction. That was very nice.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeannie. Jeannie, you can get out your camera, by the way. I know Jeannie, so we have a small group, Jeannie. So if you want to put your camera on, it's fine, and you can just interact directly with Delaney. All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Brett. Perfect. Well, yeah, thank you for coming, everybody. That was lovely to be introduced. Angelica, if you want to make me a presenter, then I can pop some slides up, a little bit of information. Beautiful. Y'all see my beautifully busy background. All right. Perfect. Okay, so as Brett said, it's a very small group, so if you want to have your cameras off and chat with me the whole time, please feel free. Yeah, I'm Delaney, as Brett said about me. I'm a master's student working mostly with cancer populations, but I was very fortunate and excited to translate kind of some of our knowledge to Spin Chat when me and my colleague presented the exercising at home sessions way back when now, almost a year ago now, which is absolutely crazy. But that is how long ago it was. So as you all know, not much has changed since then. I'm sure you've all experienced, the same kind of issues and qualms about trying to be active during this time. And, when you're stuck inside the same four walls for over a year, I'm sure it comes a bit monotonous. But so I'm kind of here to present a few, hopefully, new strategies where you can be a bit more active at home and to do a bit of movement together as well. So hopefully you can get a little bit limber, do some more stretching a little bit today, a little bit of movement. So again, a little bit of overview for our session today. I'll just kind of be going over the brief education on the types, benefits, and the principles of exercise, as well as a little bit of movement together as well. And like I said, it's a pretty small group, so throughout the session, if you have questions at all, please feel free to pop off mute, give me a wave, ask the question away, and I'll try my darndest to answer it to the best of my ability. So again, just starting pretty general, regular movement for everybody, super important to maintain health and well-being. However, given our current situation, obviously it's a little bit difficult to be active within our four walls, or maybe to even consider, being more active than you were before the pandemic, given different restrictions in whatever area you live in, going outside may maybe even be a risk diagnosed with scleroderma. So hopefully together we can kind of come up with some strategies to be a bit more active in these four walls. So starting pretty simple here, looking at the fundamentals of exercise and physical activity. So I'll pose my first question. Does anybody know or would be willing to speak up and tell me the difference between physical activity and exercise? Or is it kind of the same thing? It all kind of blends together. Yeah, fair enough. It's a bit of a tricky one. I know it kind of sounds like the exact same thing, but believe it or not, physical activity is actually a subset of exercise. So I will refer to physical activity and movement interchangeably moving forward. But being active or physical activity or movement is more so any different movement that you do throughout the day. So whether you're walking, you're taking the stairs, going to your fridge to get a snack, whatever requires energy and for you to do the daily activities during your day is physical activity or movement. On the other hand, exercise is more of a structured movement where you're looking to increase or improve one level of your physical fitness. So, whether that's doing a squat with a squat rock to, build the strength in your glute muscles, or, going for a strenuous, vigorous walk to increase your lung capacity. You're trying to target one aspect of your fitness to improve. So I'll use exercise and physical activity throughout this presentation, but really what I'm focusing on is overall movement, moving your body, and just being active in whatever way feels good to you, in whatever way you can. So even simple movements such as stretching or standing up and down from your chair do count as physical activity and movement, and can definitely be incorporated into your daily activities throughout your life. So luckily for us during these times, exercise or movement doesn't just have to be going to the gym and doing 100 squats or running for 6 hours on the treadmill. It can be just every day standing up and down from your chair, going for a walk outside, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Any sort of movement can be done at home. Believe it or not, between these four walls, it feels like all you want to do is lay on the couch, and I feel that every day. But you definitely can work those little bits of activity into your daily life. So hopefully I'll present a little bit of movement again that we can kind of just do throughout our days. So another question to the crew, is anybody kind of want to chat about different ways that they like to be active during this time, when not many different routes of activity are available? What are the favorite ways to be active during this pandemic over the last year?
Well, today I've been doing a form of dance with the Caja organization in Toronto. And I also have joined a Hawaiian dance group on Fridays through Facebook. And I really enjoy the choreography, the tropical imagery, the storytelling that's involved.
Nice. Yeah, and you're active at the same time, so double whammy there.
We should have a video coming out this weekend of our combination of our exercises today from the Caja dance group.
You'll have to share that. That sounds very cool.
Yeah, I will. I'll put it on the Spin Chat Facebook page. You can look at it there.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Jimmy. That sounds, I mean, something I've never really heard of. So that sounds very interesting, very cool, and a great way to be active. So that's fantastic. Yeah, if anybody else wants to share different ways
they're active. Movements that we had to learn over. We had learning labs on Mondays, and we would learn 16 movements. And then on Wednesday we had the practice lab. So it was more of a meditative sort of choreographed session on Wednesday with less talking supposedly. But we told them that we needed more guidance to get through it. So so that was for week 1 and 2, and then today was like the end of week 2. But I took the course over, like I doubled the course so that I would be more familiar with the movements, because I knew they were going to record it today.
Yeah, you had to look professional on the recording, of course. That's just standard practice. Well, thank you, Jeannie, for sharing. That sounds very, very cool, and it's actually really good to learn about you. That's great. Yeah, I mean, of course, during COVID, obviously it's a bit more challenging to be active, but as Jeannie said, you can find things online that you never would have thought existed, so that's very cool. For myself, I recently got a puppy, so obviously I'm forced to be active even if I don't want to. So, dogs, friends, husbands, whatever you need to kind of keep you active does the job sometimes. So kind of getting creative. Yeah, as Jeannie mentioned, getting creative is a very good way to be active. So thank you, Jeannie, for sharing. That was very cool. All right, so next up here is kind of looking at the safety and the benefits of being active with scleroderma. So as I can imagine, it might be a bit intimidating, with the different physical detriments that you may experience being diagnosed with scleroderma to be active, and kind of the lack of knowledge surrounding being active with scleroderma as well. But from what I've read, there's a lot of strong evidence that exercise and physical activity are very safe and very valuable for being active with people living with scleroderma. Even with lung involvement, exercise is also generally deemed very safe, with an emphasis on lighter intensity activities. So, going for walks outside, doing light resistance training exercise with light weights, things like yoga, stretching, definitely deemed very safe and valuable all across the board, which is, pretty exciting, pretty fantastic. So on the other hand, besides, the strong evidence that physical activity is safe, there's a wide range of benefits that you can, accrue from being active with scleroderma. I'm sure when you think of exercising, I mean, hopefully you think of quite a different, array of benefits, whether it's growing crazy muscles, whatever it is, building that lung capacity, different things like that that come to mind. But specifically with scleroderma, there are a lot of benefits, and it's a lot of good literature out there that support that, which is, again, very exciting. So the two kind of main categories of benefits that I want to talk about are, number one, psychological and emotional benefits of being active. So I really want to talk about this because I think it's very important. Over the last year during this pandemic, a lot of people are suffering from mental health issues, a whole swack of things, anxiety, depression, loneliness, all of it. And exercise can actually really help combat some of those feelings. So being active can help you fight off feelings of anxiety, depression, can help you improve your sleep, improve your mood, and also fight off some feelings of fatigue as well. So all of those, again, are shown to be evidence-based effects of being active. So I think, again, that's really relevant during this last year and continuing on for who knows how long. So that's number one. And number two, those physical benefits or components. So I'm sure that's kind of more what comes to mind when you think of being active are those physical benefits on your body. And specifically with scleroderma, there are a lot of different benefits, including improved hand grip function, improved muscular strength and endurance to help you with your daily activities, sitting up and down from a chair, carrying your groceries, going for longer walks, things like that. Improved quality of life. So again, that kind of goes on with doing all the activities that you want to do, whether it's, playing with your children, your grandchildren, finding the energy to do that and really being active and being happy with the quality of your life is definitely a benefit that we find a lot, which is, again, very cool. And then also an improved range of motion in your joints and decreased pain overall. So all of those psychological, emotional, and physical benefits are really shown to be evidence-based things that we see with exercising with scleroderma, which is, again, pretty cool. So building off of that, has there been any of these benefits or different benefits that anybody's seen themselves from being active, or specific things that you would want to get out of being active if you're looking to become more active?
I don't know if I really understand the question, but I think so. When I'm doing my exercise every 2 days, I'm just proud of me. And I'm not working anymore, so I don't have a lot of reason to be proud of me in my new life. So just for that, I'm doing my exercise.
Good for you. Yeah, that's fantastic. And kind of getting that, a little boost of confidence or feeling good. And well, good for you. That's very cool to hear. Yeah, I'm proud of you too. That's great. Beautiful. Yeah, and like you just said, I think that self-efficacy piece as well. So building that confidence of yourself and knowing what you can do with your body is such a good feeling. And yeah, that's very cool. You tapped into that. Beautiful. So yeah, many, many benefits you can see, since I didn't even list it, that were brought up. So that's fantastic. All right, so next little bit here is the types of exercise that we can do. So I'm sure we're all familiar with these in one kind of strain or another, but these are kind of the major 3 categories of exercise that we can do. So you got aerobic training, strength training, and flexibility training. So aerobic training, also known as cardio training, really helps with, again, your stamina of being active. So, if you like to go walking, swimming, biking, dancing, whatever it is, it kind of gets your heart rate up a little bit and your breath a little bit heavier. That's what aerobic training does. So it builds that stamina up so you can do those things that you enjoy for longer. So, if you practice walking once every week for 4 months, you're going to get better at walking and you'll be able to do that more often. So that's kind of aerobic training. Again, works at cardiovascular system. So your heart, lungs, blood, that pumps all this oxygen and nutrients to your body. That's really going to be benefited by that sort of training there. The second one is our strength or resistance training. So I'm sure when you see that, you think of, those big crazy machines at the gym, cable machines, big weight plates. I'm sure that's what comes to mind, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. So again, those examples on the screen, you have your standing on one leg. So any balance activities that you do, you want to work on your balance, that's great. That's strength training. Again, sitting up and down from your couch, carrying your groceries, things like that that adds resistance, that's going to work your muscles, strength training. So that sort of resistance training is the goal of that type of training, is to make your muscles stronger and again, build that strength in your body. And the great thing about strength training is that you can do it from home just with your body weight. So again, doing squats with body weight, sitting up and down from your chair, all strength training. For most of my classes, my participants don't have weights at home, so we use soup cans or jugs of milk to add some resistance, the makeshift dumbbell. So there's many different ways that you can incorporate that into your day, which is, again, pretty cool. And then last but not least, we have our flexibility training, which is basically a fancy way to say stretching. So as you can see on the screen, you have your options: yoga, stretching, even just deep breathing and rolling your shoulders is a great way to add flexibility training into your day. So it can be as simple as, sitting here watching this presentation and just rolling your shoulders, which is, again, a pretty cool way to incorporate that throughout your day. And flexibility training is definitely a neglected portion of some of our exercise programs. I can, vouch for myself that I don't stretch as much as I should, but especially for being diagnosed with scleroderma, maintaining the range of motion in your joints and, the ability to move and bend and twist the way that you want to, that flexibility training is definitely a very important part of that exercise program or regimen, whatever you would like to call it. So this fancy image here, the FIT principle, maybe a little bit more fancier than it needs to be, but it's just kind of a different way to schedule or to modify your own exercise program. So when you think of exercising, I'm sure, it comes to mind that you can exercise 7 days a week, once a week, 3 out of 10 intensity, 7 out of 10 intensity, whatever it is. So this is just kind of a organized way that you can look at how you can make your exercise program work for you. So again, if you want to go on your walk 7 days a week, great. If you just want to do it once a week, this is kind of a guideline that you can use to make that exercise program work for you. Oh, excuse me. So FIT principle stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. Frequency being pretty self-explanatory, so how many times a week you exercise or you're active. The second one is intensity, and I do want to get a little bit more into that, more just a personal, vendetta of my own than anything else. So when you think about intensity of your workout or your exercise, you can kind of think of it on a 0 to 10 scale. So this is an example of kind of a fancier 0 to 10 scale to use when you're thinking about your intensity of being active. So really I want to just kind of draw your attention to the 1 to 10 format of the scale. So again, if you're going for a walk and you think you're working at a 6 out of 10, so your rating of perceived exertion is a 6 out of 10 on the scale. And the next day, the next couple of days, you're feeling pretty fatigued, a little bit sore, and you're like, oh, I kind of overdid it on that walk. This is a great tool that you can use when you're beginning to become active or looking for something else to kind of help you maintain, feeling good after being active. This is a great tool to refer back to know when to tone it back a little bit on that exercise that you're doing. So again, if you did a 6 out of 10 workout and you're sore, you're like, hey, maybe I can tone it back to a 2 out of 3 out of 10. And then the next day you feel energized, you feel great, you got the benefits that you wanted out of that walk, and you know that that's kind of the right intensity for you on that exercise portion. So again, I think this is just a great tool that can be used. And again, this is a bit of a fancier version. I just like the rainbow colors, but a fancier version of a very simple tool that can be very helpful to gauging how you feel on a day-to-day basis with your body and with being active. So again, that kind of goes back to that intensity piece. You can definitely modify that depending on how you're feeling with your body during your exercise. So that was frequency, intensity. 3 is our time piece. So time is just the duration or the length of the activity that you're doing. So again, 20-minute walk versus a 5-minute walk. That's that time piece. And then the type goes back to those kind of 3 categories of exercise that I spoke about. So aerobic activity, strength training, and that flexibility. So all of these put together, again, are kind of those guidelines that you can use to find, again, what works for you, what makes your body feel good, and again, what you can kind of work up to on your exercise journey. So with all that being said, you can definitely use this as a guideline, again, to find what works for you best. But there is already kind of a one-size-fits-all guideline out there, put together by the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology. So a super fancy name for kind of the Canadian entity that governs, Canadians' exercise. And I wanted to bring this up because it's actually a really recent guideline. So 2020, they put this out. And the points that I want to bring up are that they really focus on minimizing your sedentary time. So sedentary time being, sitting down, lying down, napping on the couch, things like that. So the main focus of these 24-hour guidelines is that you should reduce the amount of time you spend sedentary. So again, breaking up sitting hours with standing up every hour. Again, taking a walk to the fridge, taking a walk outside every hour, just to minimize the time you spend sitting, is a really important thing that they put forward. And I think that's so cool because a lot of people don't find these accessible. So the other parts of the guidelines is that you should be getting, so many minutes per week of moderate to vigorous physical activity, the 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, things like that. But a lot of these guidelines aren't accessible to everyone, but the main focus is on limiting that sedentary or seated time. So I think that's really, really cool. And kind of what I wanted to focus on today is just sitting less and moving more. So again, it doesn't have to be reaching those crazy 3 hours a week of vigorous physical activity, but really focusing on just, standing up every hour, getting that walk in, that 5-minute walk a day, and how beneficial they say it is really, again, put forward by these guidelines. And that's really cool. And the other piece I wanted to talk about with this is that the second green bar there, kind of that lighter green bar with the cute little sneaker in there, is that they mentioned that you should do a couple hours a day of light physical activity, which can include standing. So, I mean, just little things like that they're really making that the focus, that if you just stand throughout the day, if you limit your sedentary or your seated time, the health benefits are really actually, incredible with what you can see with that. So those are kind of the guidelines that I wanted to put out. And again, that goes back to that FIT principle, frequency, intensity, time, and type. If you just focus all of that around minimizing your sitting time, the health benefits you can see are pretty crazy. So I think those guidelines are really cool. And if you want to look those up after, I can send you the link. They're pretty cool for sure. So with that said, as I'm, spouting off about limiting our sedentary time, limiting our seated time, I thought we could do a bit of a movement break here. So I promise you won't even have to stand up if you don't want to. We won't get sweaty. Just a little bit of stretching that we could do together just to loosen up our limbs, give our brains a little break here. So again, you can stay seated if you want. If you want to stand up, fantastic. If you want to turn off your camera, A-okay with me. You can just watch me seated with my lovely wall background here. But all we're going to do, I'm going to ask you to find a nice, comfy seated position, if that's okay with you. Just relax a little bit, let those shoulders down, away from those ears, relax some of that tension that we're feeling. If your tongue's stuck up at the roof of your mouth, just let it go, relax a little bit. And before we actually get into our big movement piece, the two things that I really want to focus on are three things, I suppose, are our core engagement, our posture, and our breathing. So first, core engagement. I'm sure we all know what our core is. It's our, core, abs, tummy muscles, whatever you want to call them. This part of our stomach here, all these muscles, really help us with our posture and our breathing and our balance and, preventing lower back pain, all that good stuff. So learning how to engage that core, especially when you're being active, is super important. So if you picture that I'm going to wind up and, give you a good punch in the stomach and you're going to brace for that punch, that's kind of what engaging that core feels like. Or if you're going to walk into a super cold lake and you don't want to, but you kind of get that feeling and you scrunch up your stomach and that core kind of tightens, that's that feeling. So engaging your core, number one, super important, again, for preventing lower back pain, my number one issue. Two is our posture. So kind of the two major things with our posture that we want to counteract is, I'm sure a lot of us spend a lot of our day like this. So crunch forward, shoulders forward, and up towards our ears. So we're creating a lot of tension in our neck. And again, I'm sure a lot of people experience that, pain, tension in the neck, lower back, upper back area. So counteracting that, we want to pull our shoulders down away from our ears and back towards each other. So if you pictured an orange behind your shoulder blades or between your shoulder blades on your back, like you're squeezing juice out of that orange. So, really exaggerate it. I welcome you to join me. Really exaggerating that good posture. My mom would be very proud of me right now with good posture. So again, I'm really trying to relieve some of that tension in our neck. Third is our breathing. So I'm sure we all know how important breathing is throughout our daily life. But when we're being active, it's obviously even more important to give our muscles that working oxygen that we need. So if we're ever doing a movement, I want you to breathe in through your nose if that's available to you, and out through our mouths, really exaggerating that blowing out of that breath, kind of forcing it out of our lungs so we're completely empty. And again, that's going to really allow our muscles to work to their maximum capacity with all that oxygen that they need. All right, so with those 3 very exciting things to go over, what we're going to do now is, again, nice and easy. Start by opening your arms nice and wide, trying to open up through our chest. And you should feel this one right across the front of our chest here. Really exaggerate it, bring those hands back behind you. And then exact opposite, give yourself a nice big hug. Whatever arm you choose to go over top first, great. Really give yourself a squeeze and try to pull your shoulder blades apart on your back. It's kind of an odd sensation and one we're not really used to doing. Really try and pull them apart, and then again, opposite movement, open that chest up nice and wide. Again, this should feel pretty nice on the chest. And one more time, cross that opposite arm over the top. And again, one more big squeeze. This is my favorite stretch because it's like giving yourself a hug. And squeeze and release. So again, a bit of an odd sensation in the front of our back of our shoulder blades there. I'm going to invite you to do now is just do a couple shoulder rolls. So like I mentioned earlier, for that flexibility training, you can do small movements like this. You can just roll your shoulders. You're sitting down watching TV, again, on a presentation like this. Really just open up and invite some movement into your shoulder joints. All right, and switch directions here. And I will remind you once more to bring some breath into this movement. Again, nice deep breath in through that nose and out through that mouth, moving at whatever pace feels good to you. And also, I just invite you to, sense any feelings of tension that you have, whether it's in your shoulders, your neck, maybe it's in your core. And just acknowledge that. If you have to adjust this movement based on how you feel, please feel free. Beautiful. All right, now we're going to work on hopefully a bit of a neck relaxer. So I'm going to ask you to bring your arms up like this, nice 90-degree angles in front of you, like you're holding a small ball, baseball, beach ball. And all you're going to do is drop your chin slowly down to your chest. Now you should feel this kind of down your neck, the sides of your neck, and into your spine. So, your big dinosaur bone you have on the back of your spine. You should feel hopefully some releasing around there. If this is too much of a stretch for you here, you can drop your hands as well and just bring that chin down to that chest, releasing some of those muscles there. If you like a bit more of a stretch, you can kind of rotate that neck side to side as well, get a bit of relief into the sides of your neck. I think a lot of us, myself included, don't realize how tense we can become in our necks until we do something silly like this, something like holding a beach ball out in front of our faces and really trying to release some of that tension down through our spine. Okay, beautiful. And when you're ready, return that neck back to that neutral posture. Shake that out a little bit. Hopefully that relieved a little bit of tension into that neck there. And all we're going to do now is just a little bit more movements. That was a nice kind of stretching introduction. But again, it doesn't take much. I'm just going to ask you to sit up straight. Again, bring that posture back, that core engagement back, and having your feet firmly planted on the ground. I'm just going to ask you just to tap your toes. Nothing crazy. Lift your toes up and down, tapping the ground. Again, just bringing a bit of movement into our ankle joints, our feet. You should feel this in your calves and your shins, maybe a bit into your knees and your quads as well. And if it's available to you and you have a nice stable chair, I'm going to invite you to do some sit to stands with me as well. So you're sitting down. All I'm going to ask you to do is stand up all the way, extend your knees and your hips at the top, sit back down. You can do 1, you can do 2, you can do 5, whatever feels good. Again, just bringing a bit of movement, some oxygen into your legs, just to remember that they're there. And again, hopefully just limber us up a little bit, give our brains a little break. Beautiful. All right, and last but not least, we're gonna try a bit of a core engagement activity here. So again, if this is available to you, great, please join me. If not, you can always return to another stretch that we've done. But again, kind of scooch to the edge of your chair if that's available to you, and it's a nice sturdy surface. And just, I'm gonna ask you to lean back a little bit, and all you're gonna do is lift your knees or your feet one at a time off the ground. Again, remembering to engage that core, like I'm gonna give you a nice punch in the stomach. And just really focusing on that core engagement, that squeeze, lifting up and down with that knee. If you're crazy, you can lift both legs off the ground at the same time. You're really gonna feel that core engage with that one. Beautiful. Again, just remembering what muscles we have, what muscles are there. I know I forget throughout the day after 12 hours sitting at my laptop, so it's nice just to have a built-in movement break. Beautiful. All right, coming back to slide time, brain time. How are you feeling after that little bit of movement? A little looser, a little more relaxed, hopefully. Laura's feeling good. That's what's important. Beautiful again. So just noticing any spots of tension that you had and just kind of paying attention to that the next few days, giving yourself a little bit of love, a little bit of kindness throughout your body. All right, thank you for joining me in that break. I know I needed that probably more than anybody. So next little bit here, I promise I don't have too many more slides, but here we just have a couple of things to consider when exercising with scleroderma. And this is just, again, specific to this diagnosis, but everybody has considerations they need to take before becoming active. So these are, again, just specific to scleroderma, but definitely do the screening before you start exercising. So again, this is for anybody who's becoming active, whether, you know, your mom who was just pregnant, or, you know, myself as a prior athlete with a knee injury, things like that, just doing those screenings, just to make sure that your doctor can, you know, make sure that the benefits outweigh the risks, and, you know, going to that professional just to ensure that all is good with you and your body and your intentions of becoming active. Second is don't try to do everything at once. I know a lot of people out there love to jump in head first, but definitely want to start slowly, start steady. Just increasing the intensity as you gain that strength to become more active, you know, just to avoid some serious complications, or even just a couple off days when you don't feel so well. So really just taking that gradual slope up to becoming more active. And kind of with that, you want to balance your sessions. So if any of your joints are painful or, you know, not feeling very great a couple hours post workout, just make sure your next workout is a gentle one. Again, kind of going back to that intensity scale. You know, if it was a 6 out of 10 and you're not feeling so hot after for the next couple of days, just ramp that back to a 2 or a 3. Again, slowly increasing that kind of way back up to where you know that you'll feel good and you'll get those benefits out of being active. Kind of speaks to slowing down when necessary. So enthusiasm is great. I love it. Sometimes it can be definitely hard to come by when you're not, you know, feeling being active. But if you feel out of breath or in more pain than you're used to, again, slow down. So soreness from being active, muscle soreness, definitely normal. Pain is not normal. So again, listening to your body, understanding when your body just feels sore from, you know, being active, from walking, or when it's in pain. So again, that listening to your body cue is super, super important. Warming up and cooling down. So this is very important. Again, you want to do it slowly, thoroughly, making sure your joints are, you know, listening to you when they're ready to become active. Your muscles are ready, just to avoid any of that injury or complications that could occur. And kind of knowing what you're doing, knowing your limits, kind of go into that same boat. So not doing exercises, you know, that you're not super comfortable with or that you don't feel prepared to do. And also understanding that if you have conditions other than scleroderma, you might have other limitations as well. So if you also suffer from arthritis, you shouldn't work out with painful or inflamed joints, because that can make it worse. So again, kind of reaching out to a fitness professional who knows the best exercises to help you along with that. It's a great place to start. And lastly, my favorite point on this list is to move regularly. So trying to include healthier activity into your daily routine. You know, if you can, walk around the block 5 minutes a day, if you can stand up between commercial breaks, whatever it is that feels good to you and fits your routine. Try and incorporate that into your daily life as much as you can. And bringing it back to this FIT principle one more time, I know the way I spoke about it was to, kind of create that exercise plan for yourself, but it's also a tool that you can use to adapt your program depending on how you're feeling that day. So, if you wake up, your fatigue's at an 8 out of 10, you're like, I can't do a more than a 1 out of 10 intensity walk today. Great. Or if it's your frequency, I can't work out today, I'll work out tomorrow. I'll take off 1 frequency from this week. That's a-okay. If you wake up tomorrow and you feel a 1 out of 10 on your fatigue, and you're ready to take it all on and you feel good, then you can adjust it from there for that day. But really just listening to your body day by day, of course it's going to change. Your fatigue and your energy levels will change day to day, and that's, understandable, that's normal. So using this as kind of as that guideline is definitely another great tool that you can use as well. And last but not least, I'm sure you all saw this coming, take home message. I'm very passionate about this, I'm sure it came across. It's just sitting less, moving more. Again, going back to those guidelines, it might have seemed like a lot to take in at once, but really what I tried to show by showing those is just eliminating your sedentary time, finding what works for you, what makes you passionate to, break up your days, your hours throughout the day of sitting, not being too active, but yeah, really sitting less, moving more, and even 5 to 10 minutes of standing, sitting, walking aside each day is super, super beneficial. So again, take home message. And that's all I have for you all today. So any questions that I can try my best to answer?
When you do your sit to stand off the chair, do you do it with your arms crossed in front of you?
Yeah, you can if you want. That's how we do our testing protocols. But whatever feels most, the best to you. If you need a little bit of balance on the side with a wall, or if it feels better to push yourself up off the chair, it's just mostly your comfort level.
That's one of the exercises we do in pulmonary rehab.
Nice.
And I find it affects my knees more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Definitely sounds about right. Yeah. And again, just listening to your body. If your knees hurt, girl, maybe just don't go as deep on that sit to stand. Just take it a little bit shallower and find what works for you. Yeah. Thanks, Janine. Thanks for coming out tonight, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all.
Sometimes it's difficult
Good to see you from yesterday at the at our spin meeting, and you were a guest there.
I was. It was very nice. I know, back-to-back days, Jeannie. I'm very lucky. Genevieve, did you have a question?
No, it was more of a comment. I think sometimes it's difficult for me to know, when you set pace yourself, so not doing too much, but at the same time pushing a little bit more your limits to improve your capacity. So sometimes I pushed maybe too much, and after that I don't have I think the benefits of the exercise, the energizing after the exercise, but more the fatigue. So it's a challenge to be in that, in that particular limit. So
no, that's a really good comment, and I'm sure everybody else here can resonate with that as well. I think finding that sweet spot for you is so difficult, especially because it probably changes day to day, right? Like I think your fatigue changes day to day, so finding that sweet spot is so hard. And I think that just goes back to starting really, really small and really slowly. So it sounds like you do have some experience with being active, and maybe it just comes back down to peeling it all the way back and starting from zero, and then finding again that sweet spot for you. Maybe that's because again, you don't want to feel that more fatigued than you do from being active. So I think it's good that you recognize that already, and it's a hard balance.
Can I say something to Geneviève? I think you speak French, Geneviève, I do think, huh? Can I speak to her in French? Okay, Geneviève. Bonjour Geneviève. J'avais la même chose au début que ce que tu as expliqué. Puis moi, mon médecin de famille m'a référé à un kinésiologue. J'ai été suivie pendant 1 an de temps par un kinésiologue qui me faisait des programmes adaptés.
Ah, d'accord.
Ça a fait toute la différence. Parce que je perdais mon énergie à faire de l'exercice, puis j'avais tendance à plus en faire, puis il faut en faire. Puis le kinésiologue m'a fait des plans adaptés selon mes douleurs, selon mon niveau d'énergie. Fait que c'est mon médecin de famille qui m'a référé.
OK. Sinon, je prendrais peut-être le nom de ton kinésiologue aussi.
Ouais, ben, OK, ouais, c'est une bonne idée. Ben, comment qu'on fonctionne?
Je vais t'envoyer un message en privé.
OK, c'est cool. OK, thank you. I just told her that I have a kinesiologue who helped me.
Okay.
So it makes all the difference for me 2 years ago.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. That's great. Wish I could speak French. Yeah, a couple people who do, so that's cool.
Sorry, guys.
No, that was very cool. Thank you, Marie-Claude. That's great. Beautiful. All right, any other comments or questions that I can hopefully attempt to attack? Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much for coming out. We really appreciate you taking the time to, come and hang out with us and listen. And yeah, hopefully, I think Richard, you have there you go. Yeah, a couple more slides.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Delaney, for that presentation. That was wonderful. And thank you for getting us all moving. I definitely needed that as well. So thank you all for being such a wonderful audience. That was, really great to hear all of your stories and all of your experiences with movement. Our next webinar will be next Wednesday, March 3rd, at the same time, 7 p.m. And we will have the first part of home activity engagement with Laura. That is, I think, the last new topic that we'll be introducing. And so here's the remaining schedule for all of our other sessions. And we'll invite you all at this point to, if you have more questions, comments, want to discuss a little bit longer, feel free to hang out until the end of the hour. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us all.
Just a second. My message is for Laura, Marie-Claude. I sent you in the chat. I sent you my coordinates just before you and
I just respond to you.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, too.
Thanks, Jeannie. Nice to see you.